Access Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne are a service of the Allen County Public Library. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting organizations. For more information about the program with Access Fort Wayne, call 421-1250.
Hello, and welcome to our show, The American Veteran. I'm Dale Parrish, your host. Carl Fowler is co-host. Also joining us today is Dave Jones, a Vietnam veteran. Our guest today is Gary Becker, also a Vietnam veteran, U.S. paratrooper. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Thank you, Dale.
When did you go into service?
1966.
66.
Mm-hmm. Right out of high school.
Yeah, Vietnam War wasn't really getting hot yet then, was it?
Well, they had their problems in 65, but that was the biggest skirmish they had, yeah.
Yeah, did you know what you was getting into?
I had a pretty good idea. I mean, you know, they were starting to show a lot of that on TV back then, you know, so.
Yeah.
And you didn't know exactly where he was going to be, you know.
Where did you take your basic at?
Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Fort Knox. A lot of them around here.
And I took my AIT there also.
Your what?
My AIT, which was my training.
Yeah.
For what I was going to do.
So did you volunteer for the paratroopers?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to do that in AIT. They come up and ask you if you want to join the paratroopers, and I said yeah, so they sent me from there to Fort Benning, Georgia for jump school.
Oh. And how did you feel making those jumps? The first ones?
A little nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they train you so good that when they tell you to go, you go.
Yeah.
You know,
you start out, at a couple hundred feet with some sort of a practice jump.
Well, what they do is you got a ground week. You got 3 weeks of training. You got a ground week, a tower week, and a jump week. Well, the ground week is all physical. It's running and chin-ups, and they show you how to disengage your parachute in case you get, when you land and the wind catches it. So, because a lot of guys have broke their necks by being, you know, they've learned from past paratroopers like World War II and Korea, and all the old paratroopers, you know, had a lot of problems, you know.
They drag you right across the ground.
Yeah, so what they do is they'd hook you to a Jeep of a bumper.
Okay.
And then use on the gravel, and you lay down on your back. It was like a leather harness you had on, and they drag you behind that Jeep. And then you'd have to reach up, and you had these quick releases you'd pull with a pull thing, and that would release you so you'd get away from that.
I see.
So that'd be the same thing if your parachute was full of air and it was pulling you across the ground. You'd have to disengage, you know, your parachute.
Yeah,
sure.
So, but then you have Tower Week, and that's where that 150-foot tower comes in. They hook you up to that and take you up 150 feet in the air, and then they drop you from there. Then you've got to learn how to make your parachute go right, left, or wherever you want it to go, and then you'd land. Then you'd have to learn how to land and fall. They call it a parachute landing fall, PLF.
That's a hit and roll, isn't it?
Yeah, you make yourself like a rocker so you don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Don't want to drive your knees up through your chin, do you?
Yeah, you're not supposed to look at the ground either when it's coming up at you. You just point your toes and look at the horizon. As soon as you feel a resistance in your toes, then you make your fall. You start getting into your body position.
So,
Because you have a tendency, if you see the ground coming up at you, you have a tendency to pull your legs up. And like you said, it jam your knees up into your chest. So they don't want you to get hurt. They want you to roll through it.
yeah.
So, I mean, they teach you all that stuff before you make your
sure.
jump. And then, of course, you got your jump week. And that week is when you actually go through you actually get in the plane and make your jump.
All your jumps were static line, were they?
Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't have to worry about pulling the ripcord.
No, it pulls for you.
Right.
You drop like about 125 to 150 feet before it'll pull it out.
Okay.
And then when it comes out, you got a count that you do. And then after that count, you better feel something, a pull. That means your chute's popped open. Then you look up to make sure you got your whole parachute over you.
Did you wear a secondary chute?
Oh, you always have your reserve.
Yeah.
Always
Okay.
have your reserve chute.
Do you pack your own chutes or?
No, rigger. You got regular guys that are trained to
Yeah.
pack your chute, called riggers. And that's what their job is. All day long is pack chutes.
Yeah.
So after you get through jumping, like your whole company, all those chutes would be put in a big container and they'd go into the hangar, and the riggers would take over and they'd pack them for the next day.
Yeah.
So the next day you'd come through the line and they'd throw your chute at you and throw your parachute at you. And,
I understand the riggers had to do a jump every once in a while.
oh yeah, riggers have to, well, they're airborne qualified, see, and you're airborne. To get your airborne pay, you have to make a jump every so often
They
to keep your status.
They pack the chutes though, and like you say, they put them in a big pile. They have to go and pick one out that they pack
Just
Oh, yeah.
random.
randomly,
Yeah.
and
They got to trust
jump
each
it.
other too. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Keeps them on their toes, I
Yep.
would imagine.
So you make 5 of those after your 5th jump. You form up back at the company area, and that's when you get they present you with your jump wings.
Okay.
And at that time there,
I imagine.
you also get your orders for your next duty station in an airborne unit.
Imagine that's kind of a proud moment.
Oh, it is, yeah, when they give you them wings. You've been
Sure.
through a lot to get them.
You've earned
Sure.
them. Yep.
So,
You ever sprain any ankles or get hurt
Oh,
in your jumps?
oh yeah.
I imagine just about all of them do. don't they?
Everybody has some kind of a problem. Maybe they dislocate a shoulder or a lot of head injuries,
Landing,
like,
landing wrong.
yeah, like concussions and stuff.
You get a gust of wind close to the ground or something.
Yeah, they train you on that too, to feel where the wind's coming from so you can compensate for it. So you can slow your descent down and
Yeah.
the way you're coming into the ground.
Did you ever have to land in the woods?
No, I never had to.
Mostly open fields.
It's all, yeah,
But you never made a jump in Nam.
no.
So you didn't make any in Vietnam?
No, in fact, there was only one combat jump ever made
Was there?
that I know of, unless it was top secret. I think the 173rd made a combat jump, and they jumped from 750 feet. They didn't even take reserve chutes with them because it wouldn't do any good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
and out of that, really, it was remarkable. They only had maybe 1 or 2 broken legs, and
Yeah.
they had maybe some bruises and some lacerations, but
Yeah.
other than that, it's pretty remarkable because they dropped a lot of guys.
But they must have all been pretty well trained and knew
Yeah.
what they had to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was the only one I know of
Yeah.
that was made over there.
I'll be darned. Yeah.
It was actually a combat jump.
Yeah. When did you go to Vietnam?
68.
68. Yeah. What was your job there then?
I was an 05B2P. I was a radio operator. So,
You was on the front line quite often, or? most of the time, or?
Well, I ended up, my job finally was a 75 Infantry LRP. They had a LRP unit forming over there, and I volunteered for it, so I became a LRP, Long Range Reconnaissance. So, in that respect, that radio come in pretty handy because we'd set up X-ray points and stuff so we could relay messages from quite a ways from the fire base, you know.
Yeah.
You was getting messages, what, from forward observers and so forth?
Oh yeah, we'd have a squad out that they'd drop in quite a ways away from our main base camp, and it'd be far enough where they couldn't make communication back to the base camp, so we'd have to put a forward
Relay.
X-ray. It'd be a relay station out. So a lot of times they'd send a relay guy out. A lot of times I'd be on an X-ray point. They'd just find a high point somewhere. They'd drop you in, and you just set up like a little area up there. Of course, you couldn't have a fire or nothing like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you'd have to camouflage everything because you was the only one there.
okay.
And then you'd get messages from the squad out in the field. And then I'd relay it back, the message back to base camp.
Well, I was never in Vietnam, but in Korea, it's quite mountainous. And, you know, sometimes radios wouldn't work from one valley to another valley or something
Right.
this way. But Vietnam was, as I understand it, was more flat, right?
Well, we was in
You have hills?
I was in Highlands, so Central Highlands, so we had quite a bit of
But you was probably up.
yeah.
so
Well,
you
that's
could-
where we tried to get.
So you'd have your communications with
Yeah, they
or
try to put you in on a high
hill or something.
hill, plateau, or whatever.
Sure. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was you by yourself?
On that X-ray point, yeah,
Yeah, we darn.
you just camouflage real good, and
Yeah. So if you disappeared, nobody would.
You
well,
didn't
just the people that put you in there, you know.
Yeah.
didn't dare sneeze too loud, huh?
Yeah, you didn't want to make much noise.
No, I don't imagine.
No.
It'd be quite scary.
Sometimes about the only thing you heard was your heart beating.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll bet. Well,
I was going to say, how much did your radio equipment weigh?
Well, I had a 25, and I suppose that thing with the batteries and everything, you're probably talking around 50-some pounds, because you had to carry extra batteries with it.
Carry everything on your back?
Oh yeah,
Batteries on your belt or what?
I just packed them in my rucksack.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Put them in my rucksack.
what kind of batteries were there? I remember what we
They're
had.
dry battery. It's a dry battery.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So
But the ones we had, geez, it was about that square and that thick, and it was the same size as the radio, really.
Yeah. And they run down fast.
Yeah.
then, of course, the squad out in the field, they had one also.
Sure.
You know, that they'd communicate with me, and then I'd communicate back with base camp.
Yeah.
So if we had a fire mission, say they seen a big buildup somewhere out there, then they'd call the coordinates to me for artillery, and then I'd send it to base camp,
Okay.
and then they'd
They'd
You
have
know,
the fire mission.
have a
then.
fire mission to take them out, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
And that worked pretty good. That was pretty effective.
well, it
wasn't
was very effective, you know. But the whole thing is, as soon as they started receiving rounds,
Well,
they
scattered.
knew somebody was watching. You know,
Yeah.
somebody was calling that in.
Would
Could
they go?
they-
Would they go out hunting you?
Oh, they'd be coming after that squad, you know.
Could they pinpoint you by, I don't know what they use.
No, they just, they just start scouring the,
Okay.
places where you could be hid, you know.
I thought maybe they could pick up your radio signals and pinpoint you somewhere.
Triangulate them?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think they did that much.
Maybe they did not.
On land. Sometimes they did it airplanes and ships.
But then those squads would be in a lot of trouble, you know.
Sure.
So then they'd be calling back they wanted out of there. So you always had an escape route where you were going to be exfilled. They were going to take you out. So they'd make their way to that extraction point.
Sure, reinforcements come up
And then, of course,
Help
the
out.
helicopters, it was the 1st Cab Division is who we had for our air support, which they were fantastic. 1st Cab helicopter pilots.
Yeah.
They'd come in there sometimes in places where how could you get a helicopter in there? I mean, a lot of times they'd come in to pick you up, and they were actually shredding the foliage around you above their heads with that blades. And I mean, it looked like a big weed eater coming in there, you know. And you know, if they hit something,
hit something solid, that'd tear the blade out.
It'd explode. I mean, the whole, they'd wreck it or whatever. But those guys were fearless. I mean, them guys could fly them helicopters.
Yeah, hot
But
rods.
they sure got us out of a lot of bad spots.
Yeah.
So, and of course, they had a door gunner in there that which get you a field of fire, so you had plenty of firepower coming out of
He
it.
had a field of fire, but I wonder if he could really pick out people on the ground.
Oh, I'm sure he could, because he was on a tether belt.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes he'd
He
be hanging.
lean way out.
Sometimes
sure.
he'd be hanging out and firing under the helicopter. You know, because he knew where they were at. You know,
Okay.
but they were half nuts too, so we had to be nuts. You know.
But that's what it takes sometimes.
Yeah, I think you got to be a little nuts. You know, helps a little bit.
Well, that's what earns you the respect.
So,
When the guys are doing their job and doing it well.
well, that's what everybody had to do. You know,
Right.
you knew what you had to do, so you did it basically for the other guy or your fellow soldier. You
Right.
know, it was take care of each other because nobody else is going to take care of you.
Yeah.
You know.
They say you're not fighting for your country, you're fighting for one another. That's what it boils down to. See, you got one leg wrapped up. Making these jumps, does it ever do any permanent damage to your ankles? Or
Yeah, in fact, I've been in a couple times, and the prognosis is to have total ankle replacement. That's about all I can do. So,
yeah,
but on this one here, I had a stroke about a year and a half ago, and when I went to fall, I went to catch myself on this bad ankle, and it just buckled and twisted under and snapped.
yeah.
So now, to get around, I wear this brace, and I use a cane, you know, to
Yeah.
get around.
So the VA is helping you on that, are they?
I've tried through a number of channels to get some VA help. I've had not too much luck.
That's
So,
too bad.
Oh, it sure is.
Yeah.
There'll be somebody to help him out.
Well, you know, the VA's had their problems.
Yeah,
Yes, they have.
yeah.
So maybe they'll get us straightened around with this new administration that's going in. So,
We all hope so.
Yeah.
but
It's just the opposite with me. This BA here has taken pretty good care of me.
I'm good. I'm glad.
In the beginning, back when I started and after I got home, it was the wait time was very, very long. But they've made 110% change in that. So, but I've always gotten good care there. But I've also heard, stories about similar to yours too. So,
Yeah.
but they should take care of you.
They
Well,
should do something. And
Yeah.
I don't know how you appeal or anything this way, but obviously you need somebody to go to bat for you.
Yeah, I'm going to get a hold of
George.
George
Yep. Jarbo.
Jarbo.
Jarbo,
I heard he was
yeah.
a good guy.
Yes.
I'll try to go through him again.
Did he retire?
No, he's still.
Is
This
he?
is a city county building, I believe.
Right.
Right.
I heard that he was not going to be doing that pretty soon.
Oh, okay, he's gonna retire,
Yeah.
huh? Okay.
He's a good man.
Yeah, he sure is.
That's what I've heard through a bunch of people, so I think that's the route I'm gonna go.
You better, yeah. Get back to Vietnam. When they was out, you said they send people out looking for you. Did they come close to you any time?
Well, there's many times when you're in a squad, you've only got 5 guys. So only 5 guys are in your squad. So if you make contact with anybody, you're in trouble. Because you don't know what you got. You don't know if you make contact with a platoon, it could be a company, it could be the front edge of a battalion. If you make any kind of contact at all, you get out.
I see.
You get your hat, they call it, and get out.
Yeah.
And you head for the extraction point.
Yeah.
Because you ain't got a chance, 5 guys against whatever force you might be up against.
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
So you got to get out.
Yeah.
So we were kind of like a hit and run deal. And our thing was basically was to send back information on, they'd put us out on a trail. Man, we knew there was a trail going through there or something, you know, that they'd see from the air. And then they'd drop us in maybe a mile away. And we'd work our way up to that trail and report anything we seen. Then we'd camouflage and anything to do to hide. And we'd just sit and watch that trail 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And report any activity going down that trail. We might see NVA going through there. And that was a good sign that there was a buildup coming, you know, if you see an NVA going down through there. Yeah. And then we'd report back what kind of equipment they had, you know. We had to recognize what kind of equipment, what kind of arms they were bearing, and anything else that we could report that would help.
Carrying in supplies and
Right.
yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
So, and then we'd send that back, you know, the report, which if I was in that squad, I'd be sending it back to my x-ray man, the guy up on the hilltop. Then he'd in turn send it back to
Fire base.
headquarters.
Yeah.
Okay. You gave them the coordinates now of this trail, or?
Oh,
or- Okay.
Then,
So did they ever fire on that trail when you was there?
then you'd call in artillery if you
Yeah.
wanted to. It was a big enough outfit, you know.
Sure.
You go in there and call in artillery on there and see if you could knock them out, you know. And then after you do that, then you'd sit and wait and just see if there was any more activity, or if that artillery took care of everything,
Yeah.
you know. So then after that was all over and they'd extract you out of there, maybe a day or two later they'd send the Mike Force in there, which was the Arvins, which was South Vietnam Army.
Okay.
They'd send their troops in there as a mop-up, and they'd go in there and check for body count. Because, you know, at one time it was, we were just over there to win the war, is what the deal was, and then all of a sudden, everybody wanted a body count.
Yeah.
That was the war of attrition.
That was it. They wanted a body count. They thought, well, who can kill the most people, you know? So they wanted a body count, so that's why they'd send Mike Force in there so they could get a head count.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that, which, you know,
Really didn't say whether you was winning the war or not.
well,
Just saying whether you were successful in killing them.
that was pretty much it, you know, so you're, you know,
Did you have good maps to work with?
oh yeah,
Did you?
oh yeah, we had excellent maps.
Oh. Who was it saying that there was a lot of French maps they had to use and it wasn't?
Yeah. At the beginning of the war, I think they relied upon the French because they'd been in there before. But I think we have our own map.
Yeah, well, you know, the French had never been too good at too much of anything, right?
Yeah. You're
guys
right.
in World War II would vouch for that, I'm sure. What do you think? That's what I've heard, anyway.
Yeah. When did you get out of the service then?
69.
69.
Yeah.
So you only spent, what, about a year there in Vietnam?
I was 18 months.
18 months.
I extended for 6 months.
Okay.
In that unit I was in, I put in for a 6-month extension, which my parents were too happy about.
No, I'm
No,
not.
I wouldn't
I
think
was
I
ready
would
to
be
rotate
either.
home, and all of a sudden, when I come home, I think my dad knew right away I was going back because I didn't have my big duffel bag with me or anything, you know.
Yeah.
He said, "You're traveling awful light, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." I think he knew right away that I was going back. Of course, my mom, she went through the roof.
Yeah. At least you got to come home first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You come home for 30 days and then go back. That was tough going back
Yeah.
after getting a taste of home, you know.
You knew what you was going back to, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I went back for 6 months, and the reason I did that was I could get out of the service 6 months early.
Sure.
If you did that, you could get out 6 months early. So I served
Oh.
2 years and 6 months instead of 3 years.
Oh, okay.
So I got out 2 years and 6 months.
Taking a pretty big chance, though.
Oh, yeah, it was a big chance. It was a gamble, you know. So,
What'd you do after you got home, got out of service?
well, you know, for the first summer I was home,
Nothing.
just bummed around, you know,
Yeah.
hot rod around town, you know.
Yeah.
Cars were a big deal, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you wanted to enjoy life.
Oh, yeah. So, but after a while, I said, I got to go to work. I got to get a job. Well, that wasn't easy either, you know.
Yeah.
You get home.
Not in those times, no.
So, anyways, a friend of the family worked at Joslin Steel,
Oh.
Leo Curry, good friend of the family. He said, why don't you come on out here? I'll put a good word in for you. And he said, you're fit enough. You can do the job. And I said, yeah, I can go in here. So they hired me, and I worked my way up to high as I could go in there. And then about that time, we started getting imports from Japan on that stainless steel. So I laid about 300 guys off out there, and I was one of them.
Oh.
So from there, I had to do anything I could to get work.
Yeah.
So
So, I met you out at the Eagles. You part of the Eagles, or you
I just volunteer every chance I get
volunteer?
out
Yeah,
there, you know.
That's good.
It's a good organization. It's nonprofit. They give a lot of money to different organizations, you know.
Yeah.
And
It's a nice organization.
yeah, it really is.
Yeah, nice place out there.
They do a good job for the community.
Yeah.
Like we always do a SPCA to help out there.
Okay.
We've bought them equipment for their things out. We bought them scales, and we bought them a forklift
Yeah.
so they can make their job easier out there, transporting stuff around inside the SPCA, you know.
Yeah.
'Cause they get a lot of dog food and 50-pound bags of dog food in on pallets,
Sure.
stuff like that. So
Well, Gary, we're out of time. I want to thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank
and
you,
for
Dale.
your service.
Thank you for your service, Gary.
thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the program. Remember, freedom is not free. So if you see a veteran or someone in uniform, just walk up to them and say thank you for your service. Thank you, and good night.
Access for